Hey there. I've got some things I want to talk about today about modern games and older games and retro games and how I kind of view all of them and the advice I would give about how to pick what you want to play and have some fun. So I have this broken into a couple different sections. I'm going to start with what I think is wrong with modern games, and then we're going to go into what makes older games better for me, and then just how I like to approach modern gaming, because I don't just only play older games, right? So yeah, let's get into it. First off, what's wrong with modern games? Well, especially lately, I feel like modern games have really just been getting released just unfinished, right? They have like the ability to pre-order and everything, and a lot of people spend money pre-ordering. They buy an unfinished game, and then the company uses that money to finish the game, right? Like, that's just a thing that's become the norm, I feel like. It's not always the case for sure, but a lot of larger companies are just kind of going this route. And I don't really like that, right? Like, it kind of just isn't fair, I feel like, to purchase something that's not finished. To straight up buy an unfinished game just does not feel fair. I feel like that's just, like I said, that's become the norm. So what'll happen is, games will release unfinished, and then they just rely on updates, because that's just, a thing that we've all come to expect is, games are just going to receive updates. And if it's broken on launch, it'll get updated, and eventually it'll be fine. It'll be playable. They'll fix the bugs, and that's normally the case. But for the first couple months, even up to a year of trying to play a game that you just bought that you were excited for, you're going to have a bad time. Oh, I forgot to sell stuff before I came in here. Anyways, so that's kind of my first major point. And something that goes along with that is modern games can be okay if they've been out for a couple months or a year, and, people have gone in and played it and said like, hey, this is actually fun. And, if there were bugs, they're fixed now, that kind of thing. It can be beneficial just to wait and play the game once it's aged a little bit and had those updates, rather than just, jumping in right away and being disappointed. I just feel like for me, I'd rather wait until a game is going to be more of a finished product than just jump right in at launch, because I'm worried I'm going to miss out on something, right? Like, the game's probably going to be there unless it's just so bad that it, gets taken down not very long after launch, which has happened recently. That's very rare. Like, if you're really excited for something, you're going to be able to play it. You don't need to have FOMO of not being able to go and play this game that you've been excited for. Just give it a month. See how people are responding to it. See how the release goes. You might end up having a better time when you go to play it. Another thing that's pretty obvious that's an issue with modern games, and this isn't even really something that'll be fixed if you just wait, if this is a part of the game, is obviously microtransactions, and then, eventually releasing DLC, which feels like it should have just been part of the game in the first place or something like that. Those kinds of bad practices, I would say. Season passes, and then even, as bad as pay to win sometimes, for some games. That kind of stuff just isn't fun, and that wasn't really a thing in older games, right? I feel like these days it's a lot harder for a company to just make a game that they want to make. There's so much going on as far as investors and the owners of the company and everything, because all these game studios are being bought up by large companies, and these large companies want to see return on investment, so they want to squeeze every last penny out of every copy of the game that gets sold, and they'll do that through these practices of microtransactions and releasing DLC, stuff like that. That also leads to the rushed releases of the games, because they don't want to spend as much money and as much time developing the game. They just want to get that into the hands of players who are going to pay for the game. And then after release, as long as it's going well, it's okay, well, then we can work on the bugs and make this an actual playable, fun experience. But it should just be that from the start, right? Companies just keep getting away with doing that, and no one really seems, people complain about it, people care, but they don't not buy or play these games. So the companies just keep getting away with it. They keep doing it. And I feel like the way around that is really just just play older games, right? Older games had similar systems where you could just play the game to unlock stuff, but you didn't have the option of just like paying to unlock stuff most of the time. Like, the point was to play the game and unlock things as you went, which in my opinion, that makes it way more fun. And then once you pay for the game, you own the game and you can play the game the way it was intended to be played. And you don't have to pay extra for, you know, other characters or features or things that frankly should just be a part of the main game. Okay, and one last complaint about modern games before I get into why I think older games can be better, aside from the stuff that I've already kind of mentioned. So I just feel like older games, it was just so much easier to read what was going on. Like, there's not a whole lot of stuff happening in this game that I'm playing right now. It's easy to see where all these barrels are and where the enemies are, and, you know, everything is just a lot simpler because it was limited at the time by like what you could actually render, right? And like these days you can kind of just go crazy, and I feel like a lot of developers do. They cram like as much as they can on screen at once, and it becomes almost like harder to read the actual game in a way that like kind of hinders how you play it. Like, it just, a lot of the mechanics and whatnot that are there, like being able to like shoot to open barrels and like see enemies, like in this game, like in a modern game, there'd be just so much other stuff going on here, and like stuff that I wouldn't really be able to interact with as much, and it would really just kind of clutter up what actually makes up the actual mechanics in the game, if that makes sense. So it's not a terrible thing. Like, it can be nice to play like a pretty game and whatnot. Like, it's not the end of the world. But, you know, that was just something I noticed with like older games, is like you could focus more on the actual gameplay mechanics, and just, you know, just it's so much easier to read what's actually going on in the game just at a quick glance, which, you know, that, you know, give or take, that's like probably one of the least important reasons why I think you should play older games. But it was up there with the things that I noticed where I was like, that is kind of a benefit of like older games, right? Okay, so enough complaining about like more modern games, right? So what makes me like older games better? And honestly, I think it's really just the fact that like they're just as fun as modern games. Like, there's nothing inherently wrong about an older game other than the fact it's possible you could have played it before or something. It's not a new experience, right? Or maybe you've heard stuff about it that spoiled the game. Something like that. It's not like a completely new experience, but it's still a game, right? There's nothing inherently wrong with playing an older game. A lot of newer games, you know, like my time is limited, right? And newer games, they have so many like systems and mechanics and stuff going on that you have to learn to actually like get decent at the game sometimes. They're not all like that, but a lot of newer games will just have like so many things going on, so many systems working together, and like if you kind of neglect one, like your gameplay will suffer. And I feel like older games just didn't have the luxury of having all of these different systems and everything going on. They were more simple. Like, it was much more straightforward, cut and dry. And like, if you like a specific genre, there's probably an older game in that genre that's it's got all the core things that you actually enjoy about the genre. It's just not littered with like all of this extra stuff that's in a lot of modern games to make it feel like it's a bigger experience, right? And sometimes you just want to enjoy and just, you know, relax while playing a game and not have to worry about managing a ton of different stuff. It's fun to play with just like the basics of a genre that's like really well focused on a specific set of mechanics, instead of something that's just super fleshed out with tons of different things going on that kind of detract from the overall experience. And, you know, not all modern games are like that. There's some that just still stick to it, like a good set of mechanics, and don't overdo it. There's some that do kind of overdo it, but like in a way where it's not terrible and it kind of works for the game. That's, you know, give or take, like it's a little pet peeve of mine, if you will. Like, it's not like a make or break kind of thing for me, but that's just one of the many reasons that I like a lot of older games at times. I think another big win for older games is just the fact that like a lot of the time you can kind of just play them for free, and not in a way where it's just like, oh, you know, they're just online, you can download them. I mean, like, how many games do you just have that you've bought in the past that you've just never gotten around to playing, or you've started at some point and you just never finished, But, you know, you kind of enjoyed it while you were playing it, and it's just a matter of like, oh, I just kind of got bored and went to play something else. But maybe one day I'll get back to playing it. I know for myself, there are a lot of games in my Steam library that I don't even remember how they got there, right? Like, it was probably in like a Humble Bundle or, you know, some random thing like that that just added it to my library. But some of them look interesting, even if they're not ones I specifically purchased myself. And there's definitely ones that I've purchased and wanted to play and literally just never got around to playing it. So a lot of the times, if you wanted to play an older game, you have a lot of options. And there's probably one that you've played in the past and never actually finished that would be cool to go back and play, right? Like, you probably have some good memories of some games that you've never actually fully finished. And why not, right? Like, it would be cool to go back and actually see what the end of that game is. For me, that was this game I'm playing right now, Fate. I'm on a new character right now, but I actually played through this again recently just because I haven't played this in like a really, really long time. But I remember as a kid, it was like a really fun game. And I played it recently until I actually beat it. And I mean, it wasn't the most incredible experience of my life, but it was a lot of fun. It was cool actually, like, feeling the accomplishment of going back and beating this game that I haven't thought about for years. And when I finally did, I was like, why have I never actually beaten this game? I know there is like a lot of other games like that too that I have in my backlog that I need to go and play. And I know I'm not the only one, right? Like, there's just so many. So if you're like trying to save some money and like, you know, you still want to be able to play some games and whatnot, why not just go and play games you already have? Like, you could wait until like a newer game goes on sale, but you probably have stuff you could just play for free. And it's probably just as fun. It'll keep your attention just as much as like a newer game will. It's a game, you know, you're going to play it, you're going to have fun. And if you don't, pick a different game. Like, it's not a big deal. You probably have more than one just sitting in the backlog, ready to be played, right? And, you know, something in the same vein as that is if you have like old consoles and stuff where you have just like physical games you could just pop in and play, that is so fun and nostalgic to just be able to like pop in some old game on like an old console that you had, or maybe not even like a super old console even, but, you know, just like maybe something from like the last generation or two, just some game that you just haven't played in a while or just never got around to playing. Or just something that is like super old, like kind of what I'm doing right now, but maybe, you know, you have to like break out your old PS2 or something to play it. Like, that's such a fun experience to just be like, oh yeah, this used to be a lot of fun. And when you boot up an old PS2 and pop in a game, you're not going to have like a patch you have to install, right? Like, that's just something that you have to deal with these days that old games just didn't do. Now, I will say there is a downside to trying to like actually retro game, and that's that depending on what it is you're trying to game on, you might need like an adapter or something along those lines to actually be able to play it on like a modern TV. If you're going to actually end up like doing this often, you know, maybe it's worth it like getting some kind of like a nice adapter or something that's going to upscale it or do something really nice so that it's more of a playable experience and it's not like super outdated looking. That's something I did recently, and that was really fun, playing some old like PS2 games. I never actually got to play a lot of console games as a kid unless I was over at like friends' houses and whatnot. So being able to have my own PS2 now and just like put in some old games I remember playing at their house or just games I never got to play that I wanted to, super fun experience, right? And I can tell you for sure, if you go back to an older retro game, you are not going to see microtransactions. There's not going to be DLC. There's like none of the modern annoyances that you have to deal with. It's just you put in a game, you play it, and you have fun. It's just right away that you could just go and play something. It's great. I'm going to see if this goes well. Oh, hey, that worked out. Cool. But yeah, so that kind of brings me into the final part of this video, which is how I like to actually approach modern gaming. And that's really just kind of like I said before, if there is like a more modern game that I want to play, I don't necessarily just trust that it's going to be great and just jump in right away, pre-order, like that whole thing. I kind of just like wait it out. I see what people say online, and if it seems like it's going to be a good experience after like the first week or so, it's like, okay, you know, maybe I'll pick it up if I'm really excited about it. But most of the time, I'm just going to wait, right? Because eventually it'll probably go on sale. And when it does, oh, I don't have enough room. Make my cat pick it up. Anyways, eventually stuff's going to go on sale and you'll be able to get it at a discount. And by then, because we live in a day and age where things get updates and patches and bug fixes, it's probably going to be a better and less buggy experience. So it kind of just ends up being a win-win. You get to play the game for cheaper and you don't have to have as bad of a time as you might if you play it right off the bat and it's just kind of buggy and unfinished. So if I am playing something a little more modern, that's kind of how I'll go about it. And something else that I haven't even mentioned that a lot of you've probably been like screaming at your screens about is like, if you do want to like get into like modern games and stuff, I think the best way to do it is to just support indie developers and like smaller studios, because they're not doing a lot of the bad stuff that these big corporations are. Most of the time, those games are actually fairly polished and bug-free when they release, because they have to be if they want to make like a good first impression. So a lot of the time, that's probably a safer bet. And there's a lot of really fun indie games and stuff out there. Like these days, I feel like if you want to have a fun time playing a game and not be frustrated, that's kind of the way to go. And you're supporting like a small indie developer or, like a small studio and not like some huge company that is just overpaying their executives and underpaying and firing the developers. Yeah, because that's just like such a common tale these days. And it's not great, right? So yeah, most of what I'm saying is really just going to apply to the larger games, like AAA games from big developers. Like if there's a cool indie game that you're interested in, by all means, support the developer and check that out, because it's probably going to be good. And if you're still, like wanting to wait a little bit, like I've been recommending, like that's probably still a good idea. The logic still applies, but maybe less so than how I've really been like pushing it this entire time. And really, I think at the end of the day, you should just play whatever makes you happy. Like it's your free time. It's, your life. You go play what games make you happy. Your experiences are going to be completely different than mine, and maybe you have different opinions and whatnot. So this is just kind of how I feel about modern gaming, and I think for me it works, and I feel like for a lot of people it's probably good advice. But if you're into completely different types of games than me, like if you really enjoy like new titles as they come out and like you just play those all the time with your friends and whatnot, I get it. That's fine. I'm not going to like judge you or anything. It's cool. Go play what makes you happy, right? I think really what it is for me is I've just found that in general, I tend to get more enjoyment when playing games that focus on fun and playability, rather than just like stuffing every feature possible into essentially what's a graphics showcase that makes for great trailers, right? But it kind of just lacks when it comes to actually being like a fun game that I'd want to spend my time playing. An older game like this, like I could waste hours playing this game. This fishing mini game, it's so simple, but it's kind of addicting because like sometimes, in this game, you'll just go fishing and you'll pull up like some legendary item. It's kind of just like ridiculous, right? And that's the other thing is older games are like less balanced in a way. And like, it kind of just makes it more fun sometimes, like how silly it can be at times. And in modern games where they're just like almost overly polished, it kind of gets rid of some of that charm and that fun. So for me, I like playing older stuff. I'll play modern stuff too, but normally not right as they come out. And that's really kind of what I wanted to get at today. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and maybe you agree with me on some of this stuff, maybe you don't, but I just kind of wanted to get my thoughts out there. Thanks for watching.